Good evening. My name is Bob Kurth, and I'm here to share a little story with you that I was first introduced to in 1955 at Camp Wilderness on Big Blue Lake by one of our assistant scoutmasters who treated us all to a recitation of a poem called The Cremation of Sam Mcgee, which was written by a man named Robert Service, who was born in 1878. 19 years later, he left his home in Scotland to travel to Canada because he wanted to be a cowboy. He arrived in the Yukon Territory of Canada 1 year after the discovery of gold on Bonanza Creek. And while he worked in the Bank of Canada in the Dawson branch, he heard all the stories of the miners and their hardships, and he recorded these on paper, and now I'm going to share one of them with you. And this is called, as I said, The Cremation of Sam Mcgee. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that could make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge. I cremated Sam Mcgee. Now, Sam Mcgee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the South to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but this land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell. And he'd often say in his homely way that he'd rather live in hell. One Christmas day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold through the parka's fold. It stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd close, then the lashes froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. Wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam Mcgee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, the dogs were fed and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe. He turned to me, and Cap, says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. But if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with this sort of moan, it's this cursed cold, and it's got right hold, till I'm chilled clear through to the bone. Yet it ain't being dead. It's my awful dread of an icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains. Well, a pale's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I wouldn't fail. Then we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked awfully pale. He was crouched on the sleigh and he raved all day about his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam Mcgee. With a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid, I hurried, horror-driven, and there wasn't a breath in this land of death. But because of a promise given, he was lashed to the sleigh, and he seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate my last remains. A promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. And every night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows. God, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. The trail was bad and I felt half mad, but I swore I wouldn't give in. And I'd sometimes sing to that hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Then I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. I looked at it, and I thought a bit. Then I looked at my frozen chum. Then here, said I, with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Then some coal I found that was lying round, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just roared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. Then I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I poked in Sam Mcgee. Then I took a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. The heavens scowled and the huskies howled, and the winds began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke, like an inky cloak, went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the cold I wrestled with grisly fear, but stars came out and danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked. Then the doors I opened wide, and there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of that furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, please close that door. It's fine in here, but I gravely fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that could make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam Mcgee.